This is the Unshadowed Thought Podcast with James Hall. This podcast is dedicated to Michelle Goyevich, Ed White, Caitlin Treacle, and I Chan, and also all the others that have lost their life as a direct result of psychiatric harms.
Okay, welcome back. Let's do this one more time. A little time has passed since my last endeavors. I talk to people still often that need to know if there's any way to bounce back from TMS injury. They need to know if there's any hope. They need to know what they can do. This is my opinion based on 5 years of my own struggles, 5 years of research, 5 years of talking to people and interviewing people injured by TMS and other psychiatric injuries, other chronic illnesses for almost daily. So this is the abbreviated version that's still long. This is the culmination of every single thing I've learned. And yeah, let's get started. So for those that are trying to heal from this kind of thing, there's something that we need to understand really, really clearly up front. And that is that the general information about chronic illness, psychiatric injury, TMS injury, and injuries that are impacting the central nervous system is that the conventional wisdom and the conventional treatments, they do not work. When I went to see really, really good neurologists after being referred from neurosurgeons and all these different people, the first thing he said is like, we know virtually nothing about the brain. There's nothing we can do except for experiment. This just summarizes the fact that people that are trying to treat your neurological injury conventionally probably have absolutely no idea what they're doing. They're using anecdotal information to complement their misdirected understanding and medical knowledge to fix something that they have no business trying to fix because they don't understand it. Why is this true? Why can I make such a bold statement? And the statement exists because what I have learned, this is critically important, is that, and I don't understand why professionals have such a hard time grasping onto this. Actually, I do understand. It's because the medical model tells us that like you can ingest drugs or do different therapies in order to impact like a problem that you're having, right? That's kind of the medical paradigm. This is how we do things, right? That's fine if you have, an ulcer, if you've had a heart attack, if you have these different things affecting your peripheral organs that have a physiological problem, right? It has this conventional nature to it. That is not this injury. That is not chronic illness. That is not injuries and impacts to the central nervous system. It's not it. This is different. Why is this different? The central nervous system is a closed system that regulates all those other systems and organs, right? So think about it in terms of almost any other system that exists in nature or that exists that mankind's created, like a computer system or something like that, right? If you have a system that directs the other lower systems, you cannot risk that system being corrupted, because once it's corrupted, all the other systems are compromised and it dies, right? You can't have that. Your highest level of security needs to be around the directing system, the system that operates all the other systems, right? That's why human beings typically do that in other networks, right? Whether it's environmental or not, we try to intervene and control things because we're the directors, right? We make sure things are working, we monitor things, we give it the right attention that it needs, we make the right changes that are needed, right? Out of our arrogance, like, this is what we do. It's a perfect idea, right? If you don't want a forest to catch on fire, you have human beings that are monitoring the forest and minimizing the things that cause fires, right? And or if a fire starts, human beings fly over top, drop fire retardants on it or water, and then drown it out before it can spread, right? And then they can plant stuff there and grow that area back, do whatever, control it, right? Whatever. This is our nervous system. This is how it works. Our brain, our spinal cord, all of our peripheral nerves, they send and receive all the messages that direct the rest of the body. Furthermore, to get a little wacky on you, right? Our human spirit or our soul or, whatever our identity is, interfaces with the nervous system, and that's how it controls and communicates with the rest of the body. That's it, right? So human beings are pretty complex and incredible beings, right? There is no chance that if our nervous system was easily corrupted or easily controlled by medicines or external stimuli, therapies, or things like that, that we would ever survive. It wouldn't happen, right? As soon as a small contaminant got in the nervous system or was easily affected by even a poison or something that was ingested, or say you take ibuprofen, right? Or some generic medication or something small was in your food and all of these things touched your nervous system, then we would constantly be in a flux of all of our senses lighting on fire and then quenching, and then our thoughts and all this on our sensations. We would experience a tremendous amount of anxiety, depression, our sleep would be disturbed. All these things that are directed by the nervous system, our digestion would go crazy. Our heartbeat, our respiration would go crazy. All these things, if the nervous system could be tampered with, right? But it's not. And that's why you have to understand that perspective if you're going to understand how to heal from this injury, other chronic injuries, right? The nervous system, it's closed. You cannot affect it with medications or other conventional medical things. You can agitate it, you can piss it off if it's in a weakened state, but you cannot make it better. Why? Is because that self-directed closed system that directs all the other organs in your body and all the other functions in your body also directs itself, and it directs itself to heal, and it controls its own healing, and it controls the healing for the rest of the body. And that's the end of the story. The nervous system does it itself. There is no other method for you to heal, because if there was, it would circumvent the nervous system, which means, again, you'd have the same problems. Your body would be open to catastrophic failure if you could just circumvent your nervous system in some way, right? In some easy way. You do it in a poor way, and then you die, or something severe would happen to you, right? So you ever wonder why Western medicine can't affect chronic illnesses? It's because chronic illnesses predominantly, if not entirely, consist of affects of the nervous system, of the human nervous system, right? Chronic pain, that comes from the nervous system, right? You may have an agitation somewhere in your body, but your nervous system is the one sending those pain signals and telling your brain that you're in pain. Your organs or your other issues are not actually in pain. They're just, the nervous system is sending electrical signals to making you feel like you're in pain, right? But you can go through the list, all the other chronic illnesses you can think of, as I know at this time, as I'm thinking through it, right? They're all issues with the central nervous system. That being said, right, transcranial magnetic stimulation and the injury that occurs to it, right? The treatment of transcranial magnetic stimulation is an intervention into the central nervous system. We're trying to affect the brain with electromagnetic waves. It's an exceptionally poor idea. So we have a closed system that's not meant to be regulated or changed by anything outside. And here we are blasting it directly with electromagnetic waves that we know can impact it to try to make a preferable change with that system. So when we were act severely and badly, what has happened is we actually damaged our central nervous system, right? This is kind of easy for us to recognize based on what's going on. So, but with the other thing we have to understand, if we're going to look into healing and we're going to look into how to understand how to heal it, you can't heal it directly. You're not going to be able to just go take a medication. You're not going to be able to just go get therapy, right? You're not going to be able to go to physical therapy, right? These things, you're not going to be able to just get acupuncture or chiropractic. They're not going to work directly to heal the injury. Like, the nervous system itself has to heal itself. There is no other way, and there never has been. Lots of people will try to convince you of something different, but that is not how it works. Okay, so how can we heal different injuries to the nervous system, and specifically transcranial magnetic stimulation injury? It took me a long time to figure this out. I learned bits and pieces of it, but now that I've had some experiences myself, I've started to heal myself, it's really obvious to me how to heal and the path that I'm on, and the right path for everybody else. Right. Huge massive amount of trial and error, but the principal point was, right, like, none of the conventional methods are working. I've tried so many, and I've watched people over trying even more, thousands and thousands of things, by so many different doctors. And these are all ancillary. They're all secondary. They're not directly helpful. You can make some small impact by affecting the nervous system, right? But I kept asking myself, why do I feel good for a week when I try a treatment, and then all of a sudden everything goes crazy and crashes, and I can't even sleep, and everything goes totally haywire after that? It's because we're trying to directly impact the nervous system that regulates itself, right? It does not like that. It needs to regulate itself. If we try to regulate it, we will offset it, and we'll create a problem. Okay, so obviously the next question is, what can we do to, here's the question we're asking, set the nervous system up for success? Because if the nervous system has to heal itself, being human beings, we know one thing, right? Or we know this is true. The nervous system must always be trying to heal itself, because the natural progression of life, right? You get sick, you get injured, and then your body takes care of itself. It starts healing itself. Yeah, you say a doctor might need to set your leg, or you may need antibiotics, which may or may not be rubbish, right? But the fact is, the reason we've survived as human beings is because the nervous system heals itself and takes care of itself, and it doesn't need those things intrinsically, right? It heals its wounds. It rids itself of bacteria, viruses, fungi, all the things that don't belong there. It is intelligent enough to do those things. So the first thing you got to buy in on is that your nervous system, as crappy as you feel, is trying to heal itself right now. It's making its best effort. However, it may be in such an agitated state that it can't do it. Or rather, let's say this: you existing, your thoughts, what you eat, your sleeping habits, your mental thought processes, all those things are now agitating your nervous system because it's been injured so badly, or you've run it down to such a low point. It can't bounce back on its own anymore. You have to change your habits, your thinking, and all that stuff to give it a chance to bounce back now, because you've inhibited it so severely with all your bad habits. Hey, don't feel bad. I don't feel bad at this point, although I was kicking myself for the last 5 years trying to get over it. I made the same mistakes. Almost everybody's making the same mistakes at this point in history, at least in the industrialized world. So don't sweat it. So that being said, how do you soothe your central nervous system? How do you give it the space that it needs to jumpstart itself and start healing? Right? I'm not going in through this in any special order. I'm just tackling it, right? Think about the things you do every day, even the smallest things that you do every day that are now agitating to you, right? A big one is eating, right? A lot of us think that we can't not eat, right? So we eat every single day. Well, do you understand that you eating and you putting things in your body is agitating your nervous system? Your nervous system needs to direct your digestive system to process and handle every single thing that you put inside your body through your mouth, right? So the things that you eat, if that's processed food, if it's sugar, if it's alcohol, if it's caffeine, it's like you might as well be throwing a needle of adrenaline like in your hip every time, right? Those are extremely strong actors on the nervous system, and you're just pissing it off. So you need to eat as benign as possible. So like, you're thinking whole foods, you're thinking the things the body was meant to digest in its purest form. That is something that your nervous system is evolutionarily meant to handle, right? So like vegan, whole foods, right? Fruits, vegetables, this stuff is really benign. Even eating meat can pose problems, right? Like the meat's been processed, the meat's been eating other stuff, right? It's kind of a secondary system. It doesn't mean you can't do it. I've eaten meat successfully, but I do best on fruits and vegetables. And and I'm talking in the most puristic, simplistic form, right? Just fruits and vegetables. You do not need sauce. You do not need dressing. You don't need to mess with the food, right? If some of it you need to boil so it's easier to digest or whatever, that's fine. Water's fine. Boiling's fine. Like your digestion can handle that. But fruits and vegetables, right? Primarily vegetables. These are what were most abundant to us in history. There you go. I've eaten meat, it's been fine. We can process meat, but you got to ask yourself, are you giving yourself the best chance or not? Avoid meat. You can have meat sometimes, right? A lot of us are fed a lot of horse manure about needing meat and it being the protein being essential. You got vegan ultra runners out there that are pushing 300-mile runs without stopping that are vegan. Like if they can do it, you can do it. Does it mean you should be stupid about it? No. You need to know what you're ingesting. You need to give your body a wide range of nutrients so it can sustain itself. But unlearn all this stuff that you learned. All the stuff you got bouncing around in your head, get rid of it. And think about what's real, what's true. How do you react when you eat certain stuff? Do you think you need processed cheese in your diet? Do you think you need cheese at all in your diet? What if people went without eating cheese? Are they going to die? No, right? You got to figure this stuff out for yourself, though, but you got to use common sense. Get a philosophy book. Learn how to determine what's true and what's false for yourself, what's a lie and what's deceptive and what's not, and go from there. That being said, if you're going to eat, you got to eat super benign stuff that's not going to agitate your nervous system. That being said, I did a 23-day water only fast. So I only drank water for 23 days. It was fantastic. Everything changed for me, complete game changer. I read over 700 pages worth of literature. I talked to dozens of people. I watched interviews. I watched videos. I learned everything I could about water only fasting before I did it. You need to do the same thing. Fasting it's a serious business, but think about it. We're talking about giving your nervous system rest and allowing it to heal itself. You probably have all kinds of conventions bouncing around in your head about needing food and feeding your body and having the nutrients it needs to perform. Well, guess what? That was rubbish. You were taught a load of lies about that stuff too. Does your body need food? Yeah, it needs food, but it's not the way that you think, right? When you're young, you need food. You're doing a lot of growing, a lot of development. Adults don't need food like that. They don't need to eat as frequently. They don't need to eat as often. You can go without food for a very long time. I went without food for no problem for 3 weeks, and that's being in a severely injured state, right? Completely disabled. So think about that. The fact is that historically, when people have been injured or have had disease, they lose their appetite and they stop eating. And the historical narrative that was lost was that rest for the nervous system gave the nervous system the ability to redirect its energies towards fighting the disease and healing from the energies from the injuries. And people actually bounce back from not eating and fasting through their injury and illness way quicker and way more efficiently than, first of all, modern medicine can do. Secondly, historically, at all, right? They made it through this stuff. The reason we make it stuff, we didn't have medicine. We didn't have, these modern techniques, but we still survived. It was through fasting. The nervous system will take care of itself. It needs the rest. So not eating and not using all your neurological energy on digesting food is a huge, huge, huge win if you can manage it, right? Everyone needs to assess their situation for themselves, but that's where it's at. That is what was a game changer for me. I went from making extremely slow progress and through a tremendous amount of effort with diet change and different things and trying all these stuff, supplements and all this stuff, right? To making huge progress in extremely short period of time through fasting. And I mean, you go out there and you start looking with open heart and mind and open eyes, you'll find the evidence is just, it's incontrovertible. It's huge. It's massive. It's everywhere if you're looking for it. If you know people are lying to you or feeding you with false crap, or are themselves very disillusioned generally with how things work and don't understand, and they're bought in and they're believing all the rubbish out there, don't go to those people. Don't find out from them. Go find out from yourself. Be smart about it, and all the evidence is there. So I'm not the only one who thinks so, and I'm not the only one with evidence. There's tons more people. It's huge. Talk about feeling like you live in the Matrix. Like I already felt like that after my TMS injury, but when I started looking into fasting, completely blew my mind. But no one's talking about that, are they? No, they're not. So activity. So stimulating your nervous system is an important thing to do, right? But we need to change the way that we look at it. Your nervous system needs rest. That means extra sleep and not overdoing it, right? But you still need to function. Your nervous system and your body still needs stimulation. Your your lymphatic system needs movement to work. Your digestion, movement helps digestion, right? Your lung function, your heart function, all this stuff thrives with activity. But here's the thing. I learned a lot from the chronic fatigue syndrome community. If you've been injured, if your nervous system has been injured, you need to stop doing what you're doing. You overdid it, and that's how you got injured in some way, shape, or form, right? If you stuck your head in a TMS machine, you overdid it, right? You blasted your brain and nervous system with electromagnetic energy until it stopped functioning correctly, right? You overdid it. So it needs rest now. It needs absolutely critical rest, which means you need to calm down about like 2 hours before you go to bed. You need to do calm, relaxing things. You need to stop anything that agitates you. Like if video games agitate you, if TV agitate you, if bright lights agitate you, if too much noise agitates you, you need to get rid of all that stuff. You can't do it. And you need to be very, very calm and relaxed when you go to sleep. And you need to sleep long and deep, and you need to sleep until you're done sleeping. When you get up nice and easy. You need to think about, what can I do without crashing out and overextending myself, right? If you can get up and walk for 15 minutes and then go back and lay down again, and that feels like you've got a good amount of activity in, but you didn't overdo it, that's perfect, right? If that's 5 minutes every other day, that's fine. If it means going outside and taking a long walk for an hour and then coming back and resting, do that. Everyone is way different on this subject. You need good positive stimulation. If it's lifting weights, that's great. Weight training and doing whole body movements and using a lot of your muscles is really, really great for stimulating your nervous system, right? I used to do a ton of running, a ton of cardio. It hasn't really benefited me a whole lot. It's kept me healthy, but I can tell it's not benefiting my nervous system. So now, like trying to climb ropes, push-ups, sit-ups, trying to do stuff with weights, hiking, with weight on your back. Again, to whatever degree is comfortable for you, and for whatever duration is comfortable, you want to very, very slowly work up. But the thing is, you don't want to crash out. You don't want to overdo it, right? So you need to come up with a plan on how you can push and stretch yourself, but in a very comfortable way. And you got to trust your gut. You got to trust your intuition on that. And that's good. But so the activity comes in 2 portions, right? Stop overdoing it, right? Stop thinking, oh, I need to be my old self, and I need to go out and run a bunch of errands, and I need to go to work and do all this stuff. Some of us have to work. I get it, but you might have to change the way you look at work and how you execute work. In fact, you have to. You need to give your nervous system rest. And if your nervous system is getting overstimulated, that is extreme agitation, right? If you're not getting enough sleep and your nervous system is already agitated and injured, you're going to make it worse. You're going to get insomnia. You're going to be wired and tired. You're going to be exhausted. And yet you're going to be nervous as heck in everything that you do. You got to let go of that. You got to get it down, right? There's 2 kinds of activity, right? There's that going until you overdo it and you're shaky. And then there's like getting a massage, right? Like it's therapeutic stuff. When you're done, you're like, oh, that feels so good, right? That's a form of activity. You can go for a hike and come back and be like, oh, I feel so good and relaxed. And I feel like I worked out my whole body, but I feel good and I'm calm. I didn't overdo it. I knew that was within my limits, right? I stimulated myself without overstimulating myself. I feel good, right? Same thing for going outside and taking your shoes off and walking through the grass, right? Or jogging in the grass, barefoot running, whatever you want to do. All of us are different. Going for a swim, right? Hanging out in jacuzzi, being outside. This is all good, positive activity that should have positive connotations in your mind and shouldn't feel like you're just pushing yourself through a grind to exhaust yourself, right? There's a difference. I've overexhausted myself with exercise by forcing myself to do the same routines every day until my body just quit on me, right? That's exactly the opposite of what you want to do, right? You want to walk away from things feeling stimulated and strong when you're done, right? Without overdoing it, but still getting the activity. Everyone's going to be different. There's no easy answer on that one. So you're going to have to think through it and come out with something good, right? But if you do it right, you're going to keep your body active, your nervous system stimulated, but not overstimulated. You're like speaking its love language, right? Your nervous system loves to move. It can't not move, right? But it doesn't like to be over or underdone, right? Again, this answer is not going to be conventional. It's not going to be taking a pill. It's not going to be going to a therapist's office and sitting down for an hour every other day and talking it out. It's not enough. It doesn't work. All right. So speaking of that, we're on to the next one. The next one is the mind. The mind is the direct interface into the nervous system. It has a tremendous impact on the nervous system. If we think we're being hunted or chased, our nervous system will scream and rip and do everything it can to get us away from danger, right? If we're relaxed and we lay down and you're an adult and you just chill, your nervous system will calm down and you'll probably drift off to sleep, right? So if we observe this and we understand it, we understand that our thoughts directly control our nervous system. So they directly communicate to our physiological nervous system. So what you're thinking, your intangible thought, right, that has almost no way to be quantified by human beings, that we're always constantly doing. We are so much thought, it's ridiculous. And yet virtually nothing that goes on in the environment around us really gauges, measures, or considers what a person is thinking, which is absolutely and utterly ridiculous. But this is the Western world that we live in. This is the world that we live in where all our answers are solved with a pill, right? Think about it. Your thoughts, your existence is predominantly, very, very, very predominantly all based on thought and feeling, right? Your thoughts are kind of the words that are popping and running through your head, right? Your feelings is the interaction between your thoughts and your body, right? Now your body's talking back to you. You're like, I'm scared. This is scary. I think a lion's going to bust through the cage of the zoo and kill me, right? Your thoughts going to your body. Your body's creating a reaction, right? And now your adrenaline's going, your hands are shaking, you're amped up, right? For one way, either you're scared you're going to die or you're ready to run the second that lion pops out, right? This is all resulting from your thoughts. People that went to get TMS probably already had poor thoughts, bad thoughts, negative thought patterns bouncing around in their heads all the time before they even went to get TMS. I was one of them. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Poor thinking processes, always thinking I was going to get screwed out of something, always being stressed out because things were never going to work out for me, always thinking I needed to do more. Sad because my life didn't turn out the way I wanted, sad because I couldn't do as many fun things in my life as I wanted, right? I think through all those things, like in 5 minutes, I think through each one of those things 20 different times, right? My thoughts are sending a message to my body. My body's sending the message back. Okay, this is what it feels like when your life sucks, right? And then I do that for 5 minutes. I do it for 5 days. I do it for 5 months. I do it for 5 years. I do it for 10 years, right? Now these thoughts are second nature. Every moment of my day, I'm sending myself negative feelings, negative feedback from my body through my thoughts. Okay. It's one thing to do that when your nervous system is healthy and functioning, and you slowly break it down over time. That's what you're doing when you do that, right? But we hit the breaking point. For some people, they get sick, you know, they catch a bad flu, and then all of a sudden now they have chronic fatigue syndrome for the rest of their life, right? Or they get fibromyalgia, or some other mystery illness, some chronic illness, or they get celiac, right? From going through stressed out years of college, and all of a sudden they're celiac out of nowhere, right? This is because our thoughts at some point wrung our nervous system out so badly that it could no longer bounce back, right? It was now in a constantly agitated state, completely depressed and exhausted, and also completely wired from our thoughts we're constantly sending to it of needing to perform better, faster, stronger than we already were or were capable of, right? So simmer on that for a second. Think about that. Our mindset is perpetuating our injury. It may not have been the straw that broke the camel's back. It may not have been what caused the injury, but it is perpetuating our injury. If you're injured, your thoughts are perpetuating your injury. There's no way around that. For years and years and years, I told myself and I thought, like, my thoughts are just thoughts. They don't impact your body, right? Like, I can have all this negative thinking, but the resulting anxiety and depression is something wrong with my body. I have a chemical imbalance in my head. My body doesn't work right. So that's why I'm anxious and depressed. No, it's not. All right. That stuff was debunked in the 70s. Chemical imbalance theory is not real. There's no chemical imbalance in your body. Your thoughts are conditioning your body to react negatively and give off anxious and depressive responses. And you can train it so well that even through the absence of your thoughts, your body will continue to react because you've trained it to react anxious and depressed. So even if you have positive thoughts, when you're trying to get your body when you're trying to break those anxious and depressive feelings, you can have positive thoughts, but your body will still try to drag you down and give you anxious and depressive sensations to make you think that you need to go back there because you've trained it so thoroughly. You cannot train something. You can't train a dog for 5 or 10 years and then be like, snap your fingers and be like, don't do that anymore. Stop scratching the door when you have to go out and go to the bathroom. You can't, it doesn't work like that, right? The dog keeps scratching the door to use the bathroom outside, right? You have to train it out. It's going to take you another couple years or whatever to train it out. The harder you train, the better you train, the more you know what you're doing, the quicker you can train that dog out of that response, right? But you have to do it. And if you're lazy and you do it haphazardly, guess what? It'll take another 5 to 10 years for you to train yourself out of that response. But if you know what you're doing, you believe it, and you punch it in and you focus on it, then you can train yourself out. So what am I saying here? I'm saying your thoughts are the other big piece of this puzzle. You have to calm your thoughts down. You have to give your nervous system a break. You have to give it the rest that it needs so it can heal itself. So you gotta change your thinking. It doesn't mean your nervous system is going to bounce right back. It's not, right? You're going to have these sensations from your body trying to drag it back to the negative stuff. So meditating, right? Meditation is calming the mind, right? So you're shutting off your external stimuli, right? You're closing your eyes. You're now not processing that visual sensory information, which is like 80% of our like human experience, like with the outside world, is like through our vision, right? You close your vision down, right? You take a breath, you let go of your thoughts, right? You you're still thinking, right? You're going to still think, right? But you're calming your thoughts down, right? You're bringing them back into awareness. You're exerting conscious effort over your thoughts. So instead of just letting your thoughts run because you're distracted or you're really worried about this or that, now you can breathe, you can be still, you can bring your thinking down to a controllable level, and you can choose what you want to think about. You can think about good stuff. You can think about relaxing. You can think about your body healing itself. You can think about all kinds of radical stuff when you're meditating. There's all kinds of different methods for meditating, right? But primarily, you're practicing and you're training your thought process to come down into a controlled state. You're sending it into a place that's helpful, right? So as you're meditating, you're just practicing ahead of time. Like, hey, this is how I bring my thoughts into control. This is how I calm down, right? And then as you meditate and as you calm down, it may not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time, maybe you do it, your body's going to fight you a little bit. And you might feel nasty. I did for a while. I did for like a week or two. But after that second week of being diligent, meditating, I realized that even if I ate crappy or I made some other dumb decisions that would agitate me being able to meditate actually overcame those other experiences. If you can believe it, I would eat sugar or crap sometimes, and I could meditate to negate the agitation that those physiological choices on my body were working me up for, right? And my meditation could calm it down. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the mind and your thought processes are even more powerful than the physical decisions that you make in this world that impact your body, right? It takes work, but it's absolutely true, or at least I found it to be true. I've heard it from lots of other people, and they told me, I was like, that's just rubbish, right? Like if I drink caffeine, like I'm just going to go crazy, right? Like there's no way I can meditate out of that. But now I believe that it's true. I haven't done it with caffeine, but I have done it with sugar. I ate way too much sugar. I would have had a horrible reaction in the past, absolutely horrible reaction, meaning like I probably wouldn't have been able to sleep for like a few days. That's how extreme my reactions can be. But I meditated because I had gotten good at it, and I did it consistently day after day. And I calmed myself out of that crazy neurological response my body has developed to sugar, which tells you what, right? Like it's not necessarily the sugar, it's the agitation to your nervous system. Like your nervous system is getting triggered and it's just freaking out, right? Same thing with other illnesses you see, like celiac and other things. Like it gets triggered. It doesn't need to act in the way that it does, but it gets triggered, it gets amped up, and there's nothing to bring it down because it's in an agitated state. So your thoughts predominantly govern your nervous system and everything else, right? Your thoughts are the driver, right? But your body reacts to your thoughts. So, or I should say, your body is trained by your thoughts, right? So if you trained your body to be jumpy and nervous and depressive, right, it's going to take a while to train your body out of those processes with your thoughts. And I'll tell you right now, for me, a massive struggle has been getting through those negative feelings that are bouncing back when my thoughts are no longer there. When I'm meditating, calm myself, and my body starts jumping off and being like, oh, it's time to get pissed again. It's time to get agitated. It's time to be depressed, right? It's time to be fatigued, all this crazy stuff. It starts sending me these sensations, and I'm just calm, and I'm like, it's all right. I'm training myself out of this. This is my body jumping because I've told it to jump for the last 20 years, right? But I'm not doing that anymore. I'm staying calm, staying focused. I know this is kind of a ghost reaction, right? And it'll pass and it goes away. And it's been less and less and less since I've been meditating and controlling my thoughts. But you have to acknowledge that this is what's happening and this is why, because it's very tempting to start freaking out and let your thoughts run away. When you start feeling an old symptom creep in, even though it's a phantom symptom, your brain, your thoughts will want to go to the worst place because you've trained your thinking to do that as well, right? So you got to relax through that. You got to be confident. You got to be calm. You keep meditating, keep reinforcing the calm mind, the rational mind, and taking it where you want to go, and it will work. It'll get through. So this gets into the realm of brain training, right? So there's training methods to change your thinking processes, right, to what you want it to be. Because as time goes on, we're all people and our thinking gets out of control. And before we know it, 5 years have gone on. We've had bad habits thinking. You're hating yourself. You're not being kind to yourself, or you're hating others. You're holding on to past anger, past trauma, all this stuff. If you're interested in past trauma, Gabor Mate is great. But we're training ourselves out of that. There's lots of brain training programs. One, I've been listening to Joe Dispenza lately, and the way he breaks down how our body interacts with our mind and the responses back and forth and how we get trained into these thought processes, he goes into great detail on how to break those patterns of thinking. And for me, it's been incredibly helpful. And probably some of the language I used in this podcast mirrors the way he explains it, because it just makes sense to me. So I'll link his book at the end, along with some other stuff, to help you kind of figure out more if you want. Raylan Eagle is another big one for me. I read her book. It probably kind of mirrors this process that I've discovered that we're going through here. She has reinforced things for me and taught me details through her writings and her videos that have illuminated the things that I was just starting to discover. But it's all there. So they're great other resources that go in much more depth than I do. But to get back to it, we have these negative thinking patterns and these negative habits that we have to break through our mind, through our thinking habits and our thoughts, right? Willpower is not a real thing, right? Like nobody just has the willpower to just be like, oh, I'm just gonna stop doing this, stop doing that, and break my habits, right? It's not real. They practice, right? They practice, they get good at it, and then it appears to others that they have the willpower to just do these things, right? Like people think I had all this willpower to fast for 23 days. No, I fasted before. I fasted for up to 5 days before. And I was looking forward to fasting. I read a lot about it. I learned about it. I understand it. And I practiced before I did a long fast. I fast for 1 day. I'd fast for 2 days. I'd take a break. I let my body rest. And then I did it for as long as I could, but it was based on confidence, training, and a mindset that was considerate and loving to my body and to my circumstances. I want to get better, right? And I stopped believing all the things that people were telling me, and I started buying into something else that I could verify for myself that was true, right? The stuff that I'm talking about with you right now. And that's what got me 23 days on a fast. It wasn't worrying and thinking other people were right and saying I should listen to my doctor and I should take more medications and all this stuff, right? No, I abandoned that stuff. I let go of it. And then I trained and I learned what I needed to learn to move forward in a different direction. So that's what it's about for everybody. Everybody has their own ability to do it. Everyone has an equal opportunity to do this stuff. This is not a special gift to special people. Human existence in my mind does not work like that. I've seen people that I thought were kind of goofballs and not really good at stuff do things that I couldn't even imagine that I didn't know they could do, right? And vice versa. I've seen people that were like tremendous athletes or were brainiacs at school not be able to, do anything socially, or not be able to understand like physics, or not be able to just go hang out at the beach, right? And just chill and relax, right? All these things that are really simple to other people are impossible to others, and then vice versa, and back and forth. Everybody has their strong suit, right? But every human being was meant to be flexible and to be able to learn and to progress in the way that need to progress so they can achieve what they need to achieve in their life. And that's where we kind of sit at. Back when I was first injured by TMS, I was so pissed off at the world and in such a bad negative thinking spot that I believed that the world sucks, people are broken, there's things that they can never get over, and you're just going to suffer for the rest of your life. I believed that, and I deteriorated. Things got worse, things got harder. I developed akathisia. That's where I ended up. And then somewhere down in that black pit of akathisia, like I realized that I didn't have a choice but to get out. And then I just started going forward. And there's a point where you stop caring if you're right or wrong. You start believing that things can get better and that you want to love your life and that you can be positive if you want to be positive. And that's all it takes. And that if you die along that path, that's okay, because you're just on the right path and you're just going forward, and you don't have to look back because you know you're going the right direction. And if you perish or suffer or endure great pain on that path, it doesn't matter. That's the right choice. That, you know, there's no other choice to be made, so it's okay. And that's how I ended up here. So this last one, the mind, it's essentially important, and we have to think differently about it. We have to question our thoughts. We have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to choose to get rid of all the negativity, all the stress, all the depression in our lives. We got to minimize it and get rid of it and fill our lives up with the stuff that we love, the stuff that's fun, the stuff that's worth living for. And we have to, above all else, believe that we can make it and we can be free, because there's no point in thinking any other way. You can do it. You're welcome. You're welcome to think negatively and to hate your life and to hate everything around you and believe that you can't get better. But I don't know who that serves, and I don't know why. In the past, if I asked myself, I'd probably say, well, I'm being realistic. I'm being pragmatic about it. I'm not sure if I can ever recover from this injury. That served me to a point and for a purpose until it didn't any longer. And when you get so bad, you realize that it's over and that you don't need to think that way anymore, and you can't, and it's not worth it, right? And it might be cheeseball, people might consider it toxic positivity, but when you find out and you learn that it's true, that how we exist in our minds is how we exist, then you can simply choose to exist in a better, more positive state. It doesn't mean it won't be a lot of work. It doesn't mean it won't take a lot of training and effort. There's always going to be a factor of fortitude. There's always going to be a factor of discipline. It's just a part of human existence. But we can choose to live in a better state. Everybody knows that happy, sappy person that just refused to be negative, and everybody probably hated them. I know I did, right? But it doesn't change the fact that they existed in that happy state because they chose to. And that was it. That's where they were, right? And in your negative, in your worst spot, in a bad spot, you just you look at that and I'd do anything to trade with that person. I don't care what the cost was. I don't care if they were ignorant or, maladapted or whatever, but I'd just rather just be happy for a while. That's a piece of it, and then you realize that that's probably what life is about. So here we are. The mind is exceptionally important. Do not undervalue the mind. It's probably in my honest opinion, the mind can overcome all of those other obstacles, including the activity, and the eating and the other things to calm the nervous system. If someone was disciplined enough mentally and really got through that stuff, I believe the other ones would resolve on their own. However, you want to give yourself the best shot, and you want to do everything you can all at once, in my mind, to get through this thing and to beat it. So I suggest a multiple pronged approach on the whole thing. And yeah, but don't underestimate each one. Think about what works best for you and where you can start, and then go for it. I want to also say that there's kind of an overarching theme that I've had. I've pursued freedom, discipline, and virtue through this whole thing. And I knew that I had to start somewhere, and that was just with being honest with myself. And I decided to not buy anything that was fake anymore. Never again. Like, I was like, my life's coming to an end. That's how I felt at the beginning. And I was like, I just don't have any time for anything that's dishonest. So anything I found to be dishonest, I completely cut it out, and it became a virtue of mine. So honesty, the compassion, my love, and and willingness to help others has brought me great joy through this process. Even though I couldn't really experience it very well, I just somewhere down deep, I knew that some part of me was being filled by helping others. And then fortitude. So the ability to stick with this stuff and to make it work and to not give up. That was another virtue that I've been trying to cultivate through this whole thing. So that being said, let's recap really quick. That's what I'm going to do before we end this thing. So the core of it is conventional medicines. It's not going to help you with a chronic problem. Feel free to prove me wrong. Do your own thing. That's fine. Plenty of us have to learn on our own. Go for it. I don't know why you're listening to this. Just go nuts. That's not what I've learned. I've learned that the nervous system is a closed system. It needs to be stimulated by a secondary natural effect for it to heal itself. It can only do self-directed healing. It cannot be healed from outside, direct outside influences like medication, different therapies, or like medical devices. Is not going to happen. I've never seen it work with anybody. I've seen it work for a moment. I've seen it work for a day or a couple days, and people open quote, got better, close quote, but the sensations, the stuff where they're feeling, when they were artificial, they weren't naturally being produced by the person. It was the side effect of a medication, but all those things always went badly. Never seen anything in any medical intervention ever work for these things. And I've talked to and interviewed hundreds upon hundreds of people. So we have to use natural means to return to homeostasis and to wind down our nervous system and give it the room it needs to heal itself and to get into a good spot. We can do that through eating, or a lack of eating, and fasting. But we have to relax our digestion and normalize our digestion, because the nervous system uses a tremendous amount of energy for digestion. So it's got to catch a break on the eating thing to calm itself down. Activity, we need activity. Don't think of this as you need to be active, right? We're thinking of it in opposite terms. We're thinking of it, we need to relax our activity. We need to rest more. We need neurological rest, which means like sleeping, napping, existing in a space of no stress, no depression, just strictly relaxation, and setting a different standard for ourselves. So don't look at yourself like you used to. Oh, I don't need to nap. I never needed a nap. I'd work for 12 hours and then, do a couple things at home, then go to bed. No, that's gone. That's done. That doesn't exist anymore. That's what got you into this mess in the first place. Now you need to rest when you need to rest. If you're feeling stimulated, overstimulated, or anything that's unpleasant, rest. Give yourself rest. Take a nap. Lay down. Read a book. Something that's mildly stimulating but calms your mind down, right? Anything you can do to calm yourself and give your system neurological rest, right? A lack of stimulation, do it, right? However, there are a few therapeutic kinds of activity, right? Like light activity. For someone that's used to run marathons, right? Light activity might be running a couple miles, right? Jogging a couple miles, going on a hike, walking outside, these things, being in nature, doing nice, calm activity. Strength training is good because it works and stimulates all your muscles. Don't think of strength training as like getting yoked at the gym and pushing it to the limit every day. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about human beings are meant to do big muscle movements. We're meant to work outside, be outside, and make big movements with our body, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Stimulating all your different muscle groups throughout your body at once, or one after another in a kind of workout routine. It's almost akin to like stretching. You want to stretch out a lot, stimulate your body a lot, get good, solid activity that is not overdoing it, not putting excessive demand on your nervous system. It's like sitting in a jacuzzi and like getting comfortable, getting warm, let the bubbles hit you, get into the right spot, get into the zone, get inside your body mentally. You're inside your body. You're here. You're present, right? You're getting yourself into the place you're supposed to be at through activity, but nice, slow, paced activity, whatever that is for you, not overdoing it. right? So activity, getting the right activity, not too much, just the right amount of comfortable, good feeling activity, whatever that is for you, right? You're affecting your nervous system in a positive way. You're giving it the stimulation it wants, a regulatory stimulation, not a screaming, bright lights, loud sound, activity. This is stimulating, calm, regulatory activity, good stuff, right? That's what you want. The mind, all those negative thoughts, those negative thinking patterns, we got to rein them in and break them through meditation, calming. Again, this is kind of like physically doing activity through your body, right? That I just talked about, like stimulating and regulating normal, body activity. The same thing with your mind, meditating, being calm mentally, thinking things through, not letting your rumination kind of thoughts run rampant, right? You can read Joe Dispenza or other brain training techniques who will they'll give you techniques to break your negative thinking patterns and to replace them with good ones that will make you happy. You may not feel that way at first, but over time you will get there. And I've gotten there. It's taken me months to do it. And my 23-day fast jump started it. But there's a lot of different things you can do. And anything that amps you up mentally, want to try to work those things down. Keep in mind, your body will send you sensations and feelings that you've trained it to do, even though you're trying to break it and to get to a good spot. It'll kind of like try to panic you and get you to jump, right? And play chicken with you, trying to push you back into your old thinking, because that's what's normal for it. That's what it's used to. It's resistant to that change. But there's a process, there's a pain, there's a discipline that comes with getting through that, right? But that's the other technique for getting us out of this thing. And that's all I got for you right now. Yeah, I made just a few notes here, and those are the main things that I'm working on. Those are making a huge difference for me, First time in my life, I feel like that I actually going to beat this thing. I'm actually have some confidence around it based on the massive amount of change that's just happened in the last month or two. I've spent 5 years working my tail off every minute of every day, doing everything that I could to beat this thing. And now in the last couple months, I've made more progress than I ever even believed was possible. Even though I'm not completely healed, I know I'm on the path to it now. So that's a really big change. It's a really big difference. And I'm telling people as it's happening to me, because I know it's important and I know people need it now. I can't wait until I'm done healing. I'm 110% better to come back and to give everybody the secret. I have to do it now because people are asking me now. And it's an issue now. People need the help now. So best of luck to you in this endeavor. I don't know if you listen to my words or not. But this is honestly everything. It's the best I could come up with. It's the best that I've had at this point in time. As I refine things and learn more in the future, I'll cast about it more and get the information out there. But this is what I got for right now. I'll put a couple of links and resources below to help people that are looking to learn about some of the things I've talked about. But yeah. If you're injured, I'm really sorry this happened to you. It crushes my heart, as it has with the thousands of people whose stories that I've seen and read over the last 5 years. But I wish you well, and I really hope things change for you. I hope that we can all change and get into a better place as a community, and then leverage and grow some really incredible change for the rest of our countries and our world, to where we don't have to live like this anymore. And the next generation is in a better place and are more equipped to deal with things in honesty and community. So yeah. So that's where I landed. I hope you're well. Take care and see you later.